My #1 priority right now is to finish this little bathroom shack. So when you come out and ride the trails at Everstoke, you'll have a nice clean bathroom, modern, state-of-the-art, and maybe even have a shower. We've got the hillbilly version already, but we want to upgrade that just a little bit. So the next step in here is to start on the rough plumbing. However, I have filled up this entire bathroom with tons of stuff. Anytime there's a flat, dry, clean surface here at Everstoke, it gets filled up with tools. So I can't really get started until I get all this out of here and get stuff organized. This is where everything has to go, and it's gonna be a task. I have got to get this whole thing under control. And I think the best way to do it is to take everything out of the shipping container, organize, sort, put it all back in, and have a place for everything and everything in its place. Very daunting, but I think I can manage it. All right, we've got the tool bench, which is a nice flat, clean surface, which accumulates everything. We've got some shelves that actually are working. I like how I've been able to organize that stuff. But once we get a little bit deeper, we have just got junk accumulation like none other. Multiple sets of golf clubs, golf carts. We got the ski bikes in here, and we've got all this stuff over here, which is useful, but you never can get to it, and it just, when you do it, it falls apart. You gotta be careful. This thing has been working pretty good, organizing all our Ryobi tools and chargers. This small parts organizer from Harbor Freight, man, it is the best thing and the worst thing at the same time. I wanted to get rid of it and try something else, but I think I'm gonna try to salvage it. Because basically, you go to get something out and you're like, okay, let me get, oh yeah. Every single time. So basically it's just it's like a Jenga thing. So hopefully I can fix that. Maybe just glue everything up and then it'll stay in place. We do have this whole area next to the shipping container, the lean-to, to store more stuff. There's a lot of room up top if I want to reorganize, and there's a lot of room for shelves and stuff right here as well. This feels like it would have been a better rainy day project, but I literally have to take everything out and put it out in the open air here. I keep looking at everything and hemming and hawing and being like, oh, right now is not the strategy time. Right now is just get everything out time. And with the help of my dad, we got this thing emptied out pretty quick. What an amazing before and after, except for the fact that we're only 15 minutes in and I've got 40 more hours to go. Look how hopeful I was. Yeah, and here's the before and after I'd rather you not see. We are past the point of no return. Yikes. The next step is the very glamorous task of scraping off this flaky paint from the ceiling. Our shipping container goes through some very, very extreme temperature swings, and we have a little bit of a condensation problem as well. So we could maybe get all that fixed, but for now, let's just scrape it off. I got to get this thing off the wall to move on to the next step. And this is actually kind of interesting. You see the piece of wood plywood, but it's actually attached to styrofoam behind it. This is called InSoFast, and I bought a sample from the company because I was thinking about doing the shipping container with front to back, top to bottom with this stuff. You just use some construction adhesive, push it up against the panels, and you're done. But it's very, very expensive, but it is fast. The panels have these black channels that work as studs that you can drill into and your screws will hold. So we gave it a nice heave-ho and it broke off pretty easy. And luckily with the next step, with where we're going, we don't need to clean up all this extra glue on the wall. We can just leave it hidden. It would be so nice to get some wood on these walls so I can put a screw almost anywhere and hang things up and really get organized. But the only way I know how to do that is with 2x4 framing, 16 inches on center, a full-on construction project with a ton of 2x4s, and I really don't want to do that. I'd like to do something much easier and faster. And it took my dad all of 10 seconds to think of an actual real deal solution for us. And if you're looking for a real deal solution to cramps, headaches, that general tiredness that we all hate, look no further than the fine sponsor of today's video, Element. The Element mission is to restore health through hydration. It's the best electrolyte drink mix in the business, and I know because I have tried them all. Element tastes great but doesn't have a pound of sugar. It keeps me fired up, but it doesn't have caffeine. And best of all, it doesn't mess with my stomach. The Element thesis is out with sugar and in with salt. They believe that most people, especially people who get out and sweat a lot, need more salt in their diet, not less, to feel good and perform their best. If you give it a try, I really think you're gonna like it. I always suggest people start out with citrus salt. That seems to be the most middle of the road flavor. But if you use my link, drinkelement.com/BKXC, you will get a free sample pack with 8 different flavors with that order, so then you can try them all. And if you give it an honest try and you don't like it, shoot Element an email. They will refund your order, no questions asked. You are taking 0 risk on your first taste of Element. Before I got my electrolytes dialed in with Element, my biggest Achilles heel would be a long drive home after a long day on the mountain bike. I would do perfectly fine on the bike, but after a couple hours of driving on the way home, many times I would feel this crushing, crippling headache start to form. Now, when I feel that feeling, I know I need to go reach for a bottle of Element, and it squashes it 99 times out of 100. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/BKXC and get your electrolytes dialed in today. We're gonna drill some holes through the container. We're gonna drill some holes through some 2x4s, and then we're gonna lock everything together with some carriage bolts. And it took a bit of effort to actually drill through the metal, but once we got on a roll, this was so good, and it's exactly what we needed. So now, instead of vertical studs, we've got these sideways studs, which work perfectly for getting up a few sheets of plywood on the wall. And then, now that we got the plywood, we are off to the races. We've got 2 sheets on the left wall, 2 sheets on the right wall, and the first thing I'm gonna put up is my cordless tool organizer that I found on Amazon, and this has been a really nice piece of kit. It really has room for a lot of stuff. If I can find the one I ordered, I will put a link in the description to Amazon so you can find it too. I also took that red wire rack from earlier and split it into 2 pieces, rearranged the shelving, and I think this is gonna make for a much more accessible and functional storage system. I got a nice assortment of hooks from the hardware store, and I went to town hanging and banging. Wow, I'm very happy with how the first day went. A lot of heavy lifting, a lot of moving stuff around, and now I think the next couple days are gonna be very tedious organization, little tiny bits and pieces. So just gotta dive into it. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. Oop. My dad saw all the empty space, wasted space on the back wall and suggested we do another line of studs and actually get a shelf up on that area, and that was a very good suggestion. Now that we've got the wood on the walls, I want to get stuff out of drawers and on display so it's so easy to spot and find and use and then put back when you're done. So I made this little spike strip for my Sawzall blades, put some nails through the back of a piece of wood, screw on the wood to the wall, and also clip off the pointy part of the nail so it's a little less stabby. And now we're off to the races, drilled some holes in the bottom of these hammers to make them easy to hang. We got the levels going, and now the next step is what I think is kind of the crown jewel of this project. This Craftsman socket set is one of my favorite things at Everstoke, but even though it's bright red, I still find a way to misplace it, to tuck it away, to forget where it is. And the whole point of this project is to get our tools out in the open to see what we have and actually see what's missing. So what a perfect way to put this to use than to just zip a few screws into it, hang it off the wall, and I just love the way it looks. I love the way it functions. This is perfect. The drill bits and the impact bits are in dire need of an overhaul. It's always a guessing game trying to get in here and find what you need. So once again, let's just screw the whole set to the wall. It's easily displayable. It's easily usable. I also have my little mini socket set off to the left, did the same thing. I also added a few bins down below and a couple screws up top to hang up the hole saws. I am spending a whole lot of time on the small parts organizer bins, and I think I'm gonna be able to make this stuff work. I went through a ton of the bins, and I'm actually getting rid of the bins so they're not so close together, so you won't disturb them and knock them over when you go to reach into a bin. I'm trying to get good labels on every single bin, if that's actually possible, and then I'm using extra leftover bits and putting them right on top of the corresponding screws. It is a fine frozen day 3 now, and I just realized I bought all these brand new organization bins at Costco, and every single one is missing this thing on this side. These are the bins I got previously, and you know, you could go upside down, keeps the lid on, both sides have a gray thingy. What in the world? Quality control and my observation failed on that one. I know I can return these to Costco and get new ones, but I kind of need to get this done. Yesterday, I thought I was clever and I put in this little bungee cord tape organizer. But now today, as I add more and more rolls of tape, this thing is sagging. And as luck would have it, I had a couple pieces of this random hardware. I still don't know what it's actually used for, but I was able to wrap a wire around it to give my tape organizer a lot more strength. Another fun and functional one that I was able to come up with is using a piece of conduit and a pipe strap to store zip ties. You just have to keep it fully stocked, or else at some point they're all gonna fall on the floor. And while we're on the topic of zip ties, I have to talk about my favorite tool in the world, the Knipex flush cutters. They make cutting zip ties so easy. Getting into packaging, they are an essential tool, a great gift. I have many of them. I can always use more. Things are looking incredible inside the container, but outside there is still so much stuff. It is driving me crazy. I've got my clear bins organized and labeled. It's already paying dividends to be able to sort stuff into these bins when I need to. I took a trip over to Harbor Freight Tools and loaded up on a few little fun items like this magnetic color matching paper towel roll and matching glove dispenser. I got a socket organizer for all my hex bits. I have needed this for so long. And I found the perfect place for it on the wall. And it was definitely time for a fresh set of drill bits, especially a fresh set that comes in a nice plastic case that I can screw into the wall. They had so many of these drill bit sets at Harbor Freight. They must sell 1 million of these a day. This bit organizer also came from Harbor Freight, and it fits all of my auger bits really well. It's also magnetic, but I don't really like just putting it up against the shipping container like that. I kind of want to do something else. And once again, I get lucky by having this little piece of hardware laying around. Really easy to screw it into the wood and then just drop the magnetic bit holder on top of it, and it's very secure. For these other auger bits, I just improvised and drilled some holes in a piece of 2x4. And I used that same bracket hardware, except for this time I had to go down to the hardware store and buy a few of them. And I did the same thing for my very long drill bits. I got some red duct tape and put it on our first aid kit bin. So the first thing you see when you walk in the shipping container is that red X, and you know that's where the Band-Aids are and the blood clotter and anything else you might need to survive. My extension cords are always in disarray, so I got some of these Velcro hooks, and hopefully that'll help. The top of our workbench has seen better days. This thing is ragged. But you know what? All I had to do was pop out a few screws, flip this thing over, slap it back down, and look at it. It's beautiful now. Holy moly, that was a lot of work, but I'm so happy with the function of this place. You know, everything's not level, everything's not perfect, but it just works so well to grab what you need and go. I think I'm like at 90% complete, and that's probably where it's gonna stay forever. To actually finish this kind of project, it just never finishes. There's always something else. There's always something you could do better. I'm just gonna pile up a lot of this other stuff, put it in bins, label it, and just put it up there. We'll get to it eventually. All right, let's wrap it up. Do me a favor. Go spend 40 hours rearranging all your tools, and maybe I'll see ya in the aisles of Harbor Freight.